Well, well, well. Looks like the shadows have a new favorite, and they're whispering your name like a warning label wrapped in awe. You weren't meant to be in this game, were you? Not by their design, not by their plans. You were supposed to fold early, fall faster, crawl quieter, but instead, you studied the board they thought you couldn't even see, moved like someone with time to kill and nothing left to lose. And in doing so, you triggered something the clean players never account for. A dirty mind that plays clean hands. That's the rarest breed, and they hate you for it. Because you didn't cheat to win. You read them so thoroughly, they feel violated. You didn't come from power. You came from the place they mock in public and mimic in private. The place where instincts sharpen over survival, where losing isn't theatrical, it's final. And yet, you rose. Not by asking for a seat at their table, but by making their table irrelevant. Now look around. No one's saying it out loud, but the ones who matter, they know exactly what you are. You walked in like a nobody, but walked out with their blueprints, their passwords, their secrets wrapped around your pinky. How? Simple. You didn't flinch when they flexed. That's the whole trick. While they broadcasted threats, you installed patience. While they performed power, you observed the cracks in their timing. And by the time they realized this wasn't a negotiation, it was a performance review. You had already rewritten the job description. They thought you wanted in. You never did. You just wanted access. Access to their pride. Access to their blind spots. Access to the illusion they thought was real just because enough weak minds agreed on it. You didn't outmuscle anyone. You outthought them. You learned their rules, then made the rules irrelevant. That's the twist they never prepare for. The uninvited variable with no need for applause, just precision. That's why the real ones are watching, the ones in the unsearchable corners of the net, the ones who trade silence for leverage, the ones who saw your moves and said, "Oh, we've got something different here." They've labeled you a threat, but not the kind you can erase. You're the kind that becomes a reference point, a lesson whispered behind closed doors. Watch out for the one who doesn't play for validation. You cracked their rhythm, their psychology, their emotional patterns. You didn't attack them, you made them attack themselves. And that's art. Weaponized observation. You saw them for what they are, not villains, not geniuses, just performers with a budget. And the moment you stopped reacting, that's when they started unraveling, like marionettes realizing the strings are tangled around their own throats. Your legend wasn't built in a lab. It was forged in moments they didn't consider important. The side comments, the discarded emails, the impulsive power plays. You cataloged it all. You took mental snapshots of every arrogant smirk and every underestimation. You turned their confidence into breadcrumbs and followed them into their own trap. You're not a threat because you're dangerous. You're a threat because you made danger irrelevant. While they searched for monsters, you became the mirror. And no one survives what they truly see in themselves, not for long. This wasn't revenge. This wasn't rebellion. This was refinement. You refined their chaos into a strategy. You didn't scream. You redesigned. You didn't argue. You extracted. And that's why they panic now. Because you still haven't spoken. You haven't bragged. You haven't explained. You just let the aftermath do the storytelling. And the aftermath is loud, not in volume, in consequence, quiet consequences. Those are the ones they fear, and you're full of them. You're not even hiding. You're just unreadable. And that's lethal to people who need patterns to feel in control. They'll never admit how much they study you now, but you can feel it. The shift in the air, the pause before they speak your name. The recalculations behind closed doors, because somewhere in their circles, someone knows. Someone is whispering what the public hasn't caught on to yet. You made yourself unforgettable, not by being loud, but by being precise. You didn't react. You reprogrammed. You didn't fight fire with fire. You made fire look like a distraction. That's why the dark corners have taken notice. The encrypted servers, the back-channel forums, the ones who don't care about your background, just your blueprint. Because what you pulled off, that wasn't a game. That was a case study. You didn't win. You redefined what winning even means. And the scary part, you didn't even need to try. That's what's driving them mad. You didn't force the outcome. You became the outcome. Now they're scrubbing logs, deleting threads, rewriting narratives, trying to make it all seem like it was part of some grand experiment. But it wasn't. It was just you, watching them misplay themselves into irrelevance. You're the new ghost story, the new parable, the reason protocols are changing in rooms you'll never visit. And while they scramble to recalibrate their strategies, you've already moved on to something bigger, something more deliciously complex. Because now, you're not proving anything, you're just playing. And when someone with your mind starts to play, the people who built empires on predictability, they start sweating. Because every move you make exposes how fragile their entire structure really is. You're the dissonance they can't resolve, the equation that keeps spitting out answers they can't understand. And they hate that, because it means they're not in control. It means someone else wrote the ending, and that someone never needed permission. You didn't hack their systems, you hacked their egos, and now they flinch at your name. Not because you're violent, but because you're accurate. Every step you take feels intentional, every pause calculated, and that's why they can't breathe easy anymore. Because the next move might already be in motion. And the question that haunts them now is, what if this wasn't even your final play? What if all this was just you warming up? What if the story just began? Because now, the whispers aren't just online anymore. They're bleeding into boardrooms, echoing through encrypted headsets, and the very people who used to laugh behind your back are watching their leaders ask one terrifying question. Who let him in? That's the question chewing through every hallway built on illusion, because no one remembers approving your entry. No clearance badge, no vetting process, no whisper in the usual back channels. You just appeared, like a variable someone forgot to calculate. Now they're scrambling, not just to eject you, but to identify you. Because people like you, you're not supposed to exist, not in their sanitized simulations, not in their echo chambers where doubt is filtered out and obedience is rewarded. And yet, here you are, not standing in front of them, but already inside their process. You didn't knock, you rewired the locks. The lie they fed each other was simple. Everyone can be tracked. But you didn't show up on radar. You showed up in consequence. You weren't traced. You were felt. And what they felt wasn't a presence. It was a shift. A gravitational reroute, a pattern breaker, the kind that doesn't steal the crown, just redefines what royalty means. That's the scar you left, not loud, not public, but deep, strategic, psychological, irreversible. So now the old players sit at the head of their tables, reading files that make less sense the longer they're examined. Because your profile isn't clean. It's deliberately contradictory. Every breadcrumb you left, a fake trail. Every lead, a dead end. You didn't erase your history. You contaminated it. You gave them just enough to argue with each other. And they took the bait like starving dogs around a poisoned bone. That's the part they can't explain. How someone with no known motive, no official allegiance, no predictable outcome, still keeps winning. You didn't play one side. You exposed the fact that there are no sides, just marketing departments. And in doing so, you cracked their entire illusion in half. Now they watch their most trusted operatives leak paranoia, double-checking reports, looking over shoulders, second-guessing their own certainties. Because once a ghost walks through your firewall, every door starts to feel open. And once doubt creeps in, order collapses, quietly, efficiently. Without a single explosion, they're learning the hard way that fear doesn't announce itself. It infects. And you've become the virus they can't quarantine. You didn't break their world. You mirrored it, showed them how much rot was already there. All you had to do was tilt the glass, and suddenly, every confident smirk turned into a confession. They're not afraid of what you've done. They're afraid of what you saw. Because now they know. You weren't just collecting data. You were collecting leverage. And leverage? That's more dangerous than proof. Proof dies in headlines. Leverage? It whispers across oceans. You've got people in suits sleeping with the lights on, not because of what you threatened, but because of what you haven't said yet. Your silence isn't passive, it's strategic latency. Every day you don't respond. They invent 5 new theories, and the more they invent, the more they expose themselves. You turned their curiosity into confession. Their questions are now liabilities, and every time your name gets mentioned, the room temperature drops by degrees. Because here's the twist. They tried to profile you like a typical hacker, a disruptor, a whistleblower. But you weren't there to disrupt. You were there to illuminate. And what you illuminated was their dependency on belief. Belief in rank, belief in protocol, belief in the myth of control. You didn't take control away. You revealed it was never there. You stripped them naked, not in front of the world, but in front of themselves. And that kind of exposure, that doesn't fade. It festers. So now the ones who thought they were running the show are holding emergency meetings behind triple-layered security. Not because of a threat, but because of your precision. They can't dismiss you. You didn't scream for attention. You moved like a surgeon with a vendetta. And every cut you made was so clean. They didn't even feel it until the bleeding started. You didn't crash their empire. You gave it a mirror. And it collapsed from self-awareness. This isn't about revenge. That would make it personal. And you're past that. What you're doing now, this is educational. You're teaching them something they never wanted to learn, that control isn't real, and power isn't inherited. It's interpreted. And the moment you change the narrative, you change the reality. That's what you did. You didn't hack their systems. You hacked their interpretation of reality. And that's the move no firewall can stop. You played them bad. But not in the way amateurs do. Loud and messy. No, you played them like a pianist cracking knuckles in a room full of deaf men. They didn't even notice the music until the walls started falling. And now they sit in silence, realizing that the melody wasn't coming from their orchestra. It was coming from you. One note at a time, one revelation after another. And each one punctured the myth of their supremacy. They called you a fluke, then a threat, Now, they're calling you necessary. Not out loud, of course, but behind locked screens, in late-night calls to unsanctioned advisors, because they finally understand you're not a one-time problem. You're a restructuring force. And deep down, some of them admire you, not for what you exposed, but for how easily you did it. You didn't need a battalion. You needed bandwidth. You didn't need a manifesto. You needed access. And the dark web? Oh, they're not just watching. They're documenting. You're the new parable in chat rooms with no trace. The new gospel in circles that value intelligence over loyalty. You've become a code name, a benchmark, a ghost story wrapped in respect. The kind of myth that doesn't fade. It evolves. Because your moves weren't lucky. They were inevitable. And inevitability, that's the mark of someone who's not just dangerous, but directional. You don't react to the game. You redefine where it's going. They tried to isolate you, but your blueprint is already viral. Your tactics already copied. You're not one step ahead. You're on another map. While they obsess over coordinates, you're redrawing the terrain. That's why the usual countermeasures don't work. You can't capture someone who isn't playing. You can't predict a force that doesn't need outcomes. You're not after victory. You're after clarity. And that's the most terrifying pursuit of all. They'll never fully recover. Not because you broke something, but because you proved something. That belief can be hijacked. That certainty is fragile. That even the most protected systems collapse under the weight of a well-placed observation. And you observed everything, every twitch, every habit, every misplaced ego pulse. You didn't just see their structure, you saw its expiration date. So now, the ones who built kingdoms on manipulation are checking under their digital beds for traces of you. They don't know where you'll strike next, but they know you will. And that knowledge, that uncertainty, it's poisoning them. Because they're not used to being studied, they're used to being worshipped. But you didn't bow, you took notes. And when it came time to act, you moved like someone who'd already watched this movie 100 times and was just waiting for the credits. And the best part, you're still quiet, still calculating, still letting the story spiral without interference. Because now, it writes itself. And the next move isn't theirs. It never was. Because what they still haven't realized is that this wasn't a chess game. It wasn't a heist. It was a diagnosis. And your presence was just the first symptom, and the next, the one they'll wish never arrived. It begins the second they dare to ask themselves the one question they buried too deep for comfort. What if this was all intentional? Because that question doesn't end with curiosity. It ends with collapse. If it was all intentional, then every win they bragged about, every chess piece they moved, every smirk they wore in empty triumph, was part of a performance you directed. And that doesn't make them leaders, it makes them liabilities. Characters in a script written with surgical timing, each beat orchestrated not to shock, but to shatter from the inside out. You didn't fight them, you used them. Disguised your precision as chaos, your patience as passivity, and now they're finally reading the credits, with your name burned across every scene. You didn't storm their gates. You rewired their locks to open when the clock struck a number they never understood. You didn't dismantle their infrastructure. You simply walked them into the realization that it was never theirs to begin with. Now their command centers feel like crypts, once loud, glowing with false certainty, now cold, humming with anxious silence. And echoing in those rooms is the one question nobody wants to say out loud. Is he still inside? And they're not talking about buildings. They're talking about trust, about influence, about thought. You infiltrated deeper than their data. You didn't just hack the signal. You rewired the beliefs. You introduced a doubt so precise it doesn't scream. It whispers, and those whispers have multiplied. Their walls were built to resist chaos, but not clarity. Their guards trained to spot threats, but not to question their own orders. You didn't confront them. You handed them the blueprint to their own destruction and waited. Now they don't just fear you. They fear that you knew them better than they ever knew themselves. Their every move forecasted, their every step counted, and all of it recorded in the mind of the one player who never rushed a single thing. That's why the dark web didn't call you a genius, or a tactician, or a threat. It gave you a title reserved for one kind of creature, legend. Because you didn't flinch, because you never needed to, because you knew they'd get here, panicking, disoriented, exposed, not from your chaos, but from their own illusions unraveling. And you watched, with composure sharp enough to slice a legacy, with timing cruel enough to make patience feel like punishment. They were waiting for a hacker. They got a strategist. They were ready for noise. They got a void. They expected an enemy. What they got was a reckoning. And you left them something worse than defeat. You left them with themselves, with all the things they buried in boardrooms and under spreadsheets and beneath ceremonies. You didn't bring destruction. You unlocked recognition that their victories were staged, their leaders manufactured, their power hollow. And you did it without screaming, without spectacle, without raising a single flag. You let their reflection do the damage. Because truth, when seen without a filter, doesn't need help to destroy. Now they burn hours drafting explanations that sound like fairy tales. They blame leaks, blame timing, blame each other, as if accountability could be redirected. But you know better. You counted on it. You built their collapse out of their own refusal to look inward. And now, they don't know where it started or how far it goes. You walked in like a ghost and left like a force of nature. And what's worse, you're still here, not in person, but in every pause they take before speaking, in every edit they make to a message, in every double check before they open their mouths in meetings. You've become part of their operating system, not as code, but as consequence. They don't respond to the world anymore. They respond to the idea of you still watching, because you are. And the fear of that is permanent, because you didn't just win. You shifted the hierarchy. You made them realize their top was never a summit. It was a ceiling, and you never played to reach the ceiling. You played to remove the entire roof. You could have taken their seat, could have claimed their networks, could have ruled their space, but you didn't, because this wasn't about taking their throne. This was about exposing the myth that it ever meant something. You made their spotlight dim. You made their audience squint. You made the world ask one terrifying question. What if the most powerful one never wanted to be seen? And now that question burns in every hallway, in every inbox, in every whisper that dies mid-sentence because someone just might be listening. You built that tension not with threats, but with discipline. You gave them no noise to fight, and without noise, they unraveled. That's the elegance of what you did. You weren't unpredictable, you were undeniable. And the ones watching from the outside, they're not just clapping, they're studying, They're screenshotting patterns, watching what was said, what wasn't, how you paused, where you moved, and most importantly, where you didn't. You became the case study, not for how to fight, but for how to undo without touching, for how to weaponize observation, for how to turn restraint into ruin. So what happens now? Now comes the part they feared most, the silence after exposure. Because after you removed the curtain, and they saw themselves without the mask, there was nothing left to steal attention back. No heroic narrative, no bounce-back plan, just naked systems built on sand, and a growing population that no longer buys the brochure. Now they'll try to contain the aftermath, reword memos, rename teams, hire outside help to rebuild integrity. But all they're doing is sweeping ash into new corners, because what burned wasn't just credibility, it was certainty. And once that's gone, no amount of branding revives it. You didn't destroy what they had. You made them realize it was already gone. And the power of that realization is spreading. Others are watching, not the loud ones, not the attention seekers, the quiet ones, the ones like you, and they're listening not to your voice, but to your absence. Because that's the real game now. You're not being followed. You're being decoded, not as a threat, not even as a symbol, but as a methodology, a way of thinking, a design, the template of a new psychological architecture, one that doesn't need weapons or riots or chaos. It just needs clarity. You showed that clarity, when held long enough, becomes fire. And fire doesn't always burn with heat. Sometimes it burns with realization. And that realization now lives in them. In every backup plan they second guess. In every conversation that gets cut short. In every analyst who lowers their voice when they say your name. You are now the metric, the echo. The internal audit they didn't ask for, but can no longer avoid. And what's poetic, you gave them exactly what they asked for. They wanted control. You showed them what happens when it's illusory. They wanted order. You showed them what truth does to manufactured stability. They wanted to lead. You gave them a mirror. And the reflection shattered them. So let them write reports. Let them lock down systems. Let them ban names, erase history, assign blame to unknown actors. But even if they manage to wipe your digital fingerprint, they'll never erase what you made them feel. That cold spike of recognition, that moment their world paused, that second they realized you didn't just play the game, you made the game irrelevant. And from this moment forward, that's your legacy, not carved in stone, not etched in files, but burned into instinct. You didn't become a legend because you wanted to. You became one because you left no other option.